We are responding to a pandemic, an economic crisis, natural disasters. The air quality here was unbreathable for almost 2 weeks, and a renewed focus on rooting out structural racism, the structures. In education, we need to pivot from a system that reinforces the advantage of some students over others to a system that maximizes the talent of all students. And the reason is simple and straightforward. There is no excellence without equity. Say that again. There's no excellence. There will be no excellence in our state without equity. And so I hope we can agree that the central purpose of public education in Nevada is to advance equity, especially for our Black students. But the data tell us that what we've done to date is not good enough. And in a perfect world, we would all agree and embrace the idea that there's no excellence without equity. If this notion was embraced by all Nevadans, this would mean allocating resources differently. It would mean defining the success of the entire educational enterprise in a different way. But we don't live in a perfect world. The reality is that as a society, we do not all see things the same way. And so what we've learned so far is that the goodwill of the department, of districts, of school leaders and educators hasn't been enough to overcome these opportunity gaps. We've seen that we cannot count on all of us, lawmakers, electeds alone, to set this work straight. If it's true that policy starts where trust leaves off, we need policies that maximize the good while protecting those who are most vulnerable and least well served. And so this town hall invites us to consider, is our education system fit for purpose? How well adapted is our education to the current conditions to today? Does our system need a tune-up, a major overhaul, or does it need a new engine altogether? And so these challenges are real. We've seen that resistance to change is substantial. We have seen that when chips are down, when budgets shrink, well-intended policies to advance equity can be reversed in a heartbeat. So where does that leave policymakers? What precisely should be done, and where do we start? This week, an article appeared in Forbes magazine that was titled, "Moving Forward Requires a Shared Reality." In it, the author Tom Vander Ark described the challenge of bringing people together to get things done in a splintered society. He offered a roadmap to develop a shared reality, and he says the shared reality is the necessary first step for leadership, and that it is true whether it is for school, company, or country. And though through all of this work, this caucus helps create a new narrative and helps bring about a shared reality for our system, you do that by conducting nonpartisan, fact-based research and pressing on the issues facing Nevadans. It's just right to shine a light on all of these areas that need attention. And I'm so happy to be here today to share this reality and to build this future forward, making sure that we're not looking in the rearview mirror, but building a system that supports all of our children. Thank you, Yvette, and I look forward to when we have the time to have questions, and I believe we have Superintendent Jara next.
Yes, we do. And thank you so much, Superintendent Ebert. That was so beautifully stated and really means a lot. We've had many conversations around a lot of this and shared tears behind it. So I know your passion for it, and I just hope that with all that's going on in the world today, and I know there's decisions that are going to have to be made, and we may not, we just don't want to be asked again to wait. We've been waiting for 400 years, and we there's always going to be something. And so we're just asking that we don't want to wait anymore. We can't survive. Our community is the projections for the future, as far as like the wealth gap, we are the one group where we will be actually a negative in growth. So the only group that will be a negative in growth. So we don't have any more time. We've run out of time. So thank you so much, Superintendent Ebert, for being here. We appreciate you and all the work that you're doing, and your fabulous team up there. I always enjoy working with them. They're such a great team. And we appreciate, especially doing these sessions. Don't think we don't know how hard you all work to keep those sessions going up there. So, we'll be praying for you for January. And if you can stay on, that would be great, so we can take some questions. And I'm so happy, Dr. Jara, that you were able to get on. I was going to put you on. I moved away to tell Roseanne, let's put him on speakerphone. She said, oh, he's on. So thank you both so much, the both of you, for coming together to do this forum for us today. I really, really appreciate it, especially with all this going on, that you guys both have your hands full. So thank you so much. I just want to express that one more time. Dr. Jara, everyone knows Dr. Jara. I'm sure that's on the call. So we'll just ask you to take it away because we're running a few minutes late.
Yeah, no, I apologize, and I'll be brief. I think, and I apologize for being late. Hopefully, they didn't catch Joe, who's driving me back, passing some of the red lights. I was coming back from an event, really around our children that are childhood cancer and experiencing some trauma. We're partnering with a few foundations. So thank you. So I'll be brief because I think, and State Superintendent Ebert called it, honestly, the realities of what we're facing. So I won't add much to that. I know, Yvette, you and I have had many conversations, and we've both shed tears, and really supported our children. And I'll go back because I see a couple of folks that are on the call in the town hall and some of the work that we have been doing. If we can go back a little bit pre-COVID, and I'll say that because we put together a commission here looking at our data, and for the first time, we pretty much opened and I know Poonam's on the call, opened the hood and shared our entire data, academic data, our discipline, because, even from my arrival here, June of 2018, we kept on talking about discipline and the disproportionality. And what was going on in our schools and sending kids out. And when we opened up the hood of the car, if you will, and started looking at our academic data, the kids that we were pushing out as a system were not sitting in our AP classes. We're not sitting in our IB classrooms. We're not sitting in our GATE program. We're not sitting in our algebra in middle school. We're not sitting. So then with my brother's keeper and really looking at it and saying, well, what's going on? Well, they're not in school, then they're not in these programs. So open the door and really shared, and we pulled out and the commission released a report to the board and to the entire community and said, we're going to fix this and address the inequities and really looking at the work that was going on as a system and moving to really not only more an inclusive practice, but then really addressing the discipline issue, the disproportionality, and a lot of the work. And how do we engage kids? And this is where Jack Martin and Bridget Duffy with the Department of Juvenile Justice said, we're going to build a partnership together. I don't want the kids in the prisons. I don't want my kids out in our camps. I want our kids in the classroom where they need to. So with the school justice partnership and the work that was going on, are we perfect? No. Are we better? Yes. When you look at the last 3 years, the disproportionality in suspension, our suspension rate has gone down 28%. For our Black students, 22. So there's still a gap. We're going down, but there's still a gap. So there's work that's happening in our schools, led by our leaders, by our teachers. Do we have more work to do? Agreed, absolutely. That's why, and I know, Yvette, you're a big champion of the National Equity Project and the work. And how do we train our educators in our classroom to really address the issues and de-escalate what's going on in classrooms, and then to be able to keep the kids engaged. And it's not about not holding them accountable.
Is there a name that, okay.
It's not about.
Excuse me, Dr. Jar, can you please Mute your mic. We can hear your conversation. Okay,
It's
I'm
not
sorry,
a-
Dr. Jar.
No, thank you, Yvette. It's not about not holding kids accountable. It's about changing the behavior because they are kids, they are children
Yeah.
who make mistakes. And how do we then de-escalate and keep them in class? So we were doing that work and we've seen some positive data. So then we had obviously COVID. What COVID, as Superintendent Ebert talked about 9/11 and how the FBI had to change. COVID exposed, and not in Clark County, not in Nevada, exposed the inequities in American public schools across the country. So it's not a Clark County issue. It is a national issue on the inequities. And we saw that. And the work started really moving from the academics piece to address the digital divide. And Poonam, our daily calls that we're having 3 times a day to really address not only the connectivity, not only the Chromebooks, a lot of the different things that were happening, because we know the kids that did not have access to technology. We know who they are. And we had to really move in quickly to be able to give them some of that opportunities, partnering with the governor's task force, partnering with the Department of Education, the Elaine Wynn Family Foundation, everybody to really address the inequities. Now, as we come out of this, how do we come back and do things differently for our kids? Because we know there's going to be some kids that are going to love distance education and may not want to come back. How do we as a system change and become more agile to really address? How do we address the challenges that we're facing for our system, for our Black students? Because we still need to address the disproportionality. So as I'm pushing on the team, now it's how do we continue to not let this crisis be an excuse? Because the data will tell you, if you on this town hall have not seen the equity report, in Clark County, we have, thank you, Putnam, for putting it up. I still have that memorized. We have schools. If we go to the elementary component, we have a school that has over 90% of our children are talented and gifted. Right? And then we have a school in the same zip code, not in the same school system, that has a very low percentage of kids that are talented and gifted. In the same school system. Guess what? In the suburbs, they're all gifted and talented. In our urban core, what we're saying to those children, that you're not talented because you haven't been identified. So as a school system, the board voted on this year, we are doing universal gifted screening in the 2nd grade. Because we know those parents who have access can go get a medical form to come to say, my kids are gifted and talented because they have access. So now we, as adults have made that change. How do we then look at Algebra 1 in our middle schools and geometry? We know the circle in our urban core where most of our Black and Latino students are sitting do not have access to Algebra 1 in the 7th and 8th grade. But in the suburbs, they do. So how do we change that trajectory? Because it's not about ability, it is about access. So how do we as a system start addressing the realities? And how do we have a perfect, and I say, well, this is the perfect storm. Because now we know distance education. If you're sitting at a certain school, why couldn't you sit at another school during distance education? We're doing it across the state and across the country. So we need to think and reprogram our brain. So when we come back, we don't come back with the same way to teach and do school the same way. Shame on us. Shame on us if we come back and do school, because we know my good friend, and I know State Superintendent knows him well, he was one of ours, Richard Carranza. He said, shame on us because we know school was working for some kids, not all kids. So shame on us if we as adults come back and do school the same way. In our high schools, we know we have high schools that have 44 academic programs in the suburbs. In our urban core, 16 access to programs. So we need to change what we're doing because we know the kids that do not have access. So how do we start thinking and moving forward? And how do we capitalize looking at data to then make decisions as a system? For the first time, we have a balanced assessment system, K-12, K-10 in this school system over 10 years. Now we can see and look and address the needs of our individual kids. A lot of work, it's only been 2 years, but now we have a system in place. What we need, professional development to support our leaders, to support our teachers, to be able to drive down to this work. So Yvette, I know that in our conversations and the work we do, we also need to find ways to expand how do we connect our kids. So when things and children are struggling in our schools, how do we put a network and a system around them to support them? That's why the the Black Student Union, I know we have it in 28 high schools and 1 middle school. Do we need it in all schools? Absolutely. So how do we commit as a school system to be able to support those efforts? Because I know, and you all know, if the kids don't feel connected, they disconnect and disengage, and they find their own connections somewhere else. So I'll leave it to now turn Yvette to answer questions, and I think the time is right. I know the state superintendent and I were on a call yesterday with a different organization that really is lining us up as a state to move forward and move together to address some of the needs that we have for our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Jar. We appreciate that. And we're going to take some questions. So, Shawina, if you can start looking through there and preparing what questions you have. I don't know how your process you're using, so, but whatever. But I do want to just state this while we have you both on the call. It's our position as Black people in America and Black Nevadans that it's great that we want to improve our school system for all kids. It's great that we want to make things better for all kids. But what we have an issue with is it's always about making it better for all kids. And what's happening is it's not getting better for our kids. So the amount of energy and effort that we put into making it better for everybody, let's hold off for a minute. If we could just get to where we can have what everybody else got, then we can all move on together. You know what I'm saying? That's where we don't seem to want to stop and do. We don't want to deal with the inequity, the injustice, and the gap. Can we at least hold on before the ship sails again? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Jar. Go ahead. And then I'll jump into Shawina.
No, if I can jump into that, Yvette, I think you bring up a great point. If you recall, and I know that you and I talked about this after it happened, when I shifted the Title I funding, because we used to, as a school system, distribute Title I all the way to the 40%. So then you minimize the impact. And the impact should be, right? I mean, there's school systems across American urban schools that only give Title I to schools that are 75% and above. That is what you're talking about exactly, Yvette. It's providing more to those that need the most. And I think that is so important. And we moved it just to 60%. We're not touching it because there's a greater need, but that is exactly what you're talking about, Yvette, that we need to take some bold steps because there's kids that have been under-resourced and underfunded for so many years. And that's the change that needs to happen and to continue to happen, because then you have schools across the country that are outperforming us, and you look at how they budget, 75% and above, they're getting more resources to support the kids. So I think that is a great point. And I think that is, we slowed down at 60 because of the budget and where we are now. But eventually, we'd like to get to where you fund it at 75% and above. That means the kids that need the most get the most.
Thank you, Dr. Jar. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Shawina. But one last statement. We need you, everyone in this town hall, to not just be progressive, be aggressive. We don't need more progressive. We need aggressive. So thank you. Shawina, go ahead with your first question. I don't know if you want to call on do you want to call on the person and let them ask, or are you just going to ask? However you want to do it.
Alexandria Dominguez, are you still on the call?
I am, yes.
Okay, I just read your comment. You want to read your question?
Sure, I wasn't expecting to be called on so quickly. Thank you. I posed a question around expanding access to rigorous coursework for students. You know, Dr. Jara mentioned his efforts to screen students for gifted and talented courses. Same goes for, rigorous coursework. We see significant equity gaps when it comes to Black student participation and other minority student participation in AP, IB, dual enrollment courses. So what can we do to remove those barriers and make sure that there is equitable access to that coursework, which we know gives students so many opportunities after they're done with high school?
Thank you, Alexandra. One of the things that we put together, and we're now again, and I don't want to I want to preface as pre-COVID, and now we're addressing to look at and what we're doing now. The team, our curriculum team, did a great job in putting together a document in preparing what is it and the assessment scores that are needed or recommended to be placed in Algebra 1 in 7th grade and 8th grade in geometry, because that starts, you can open access in the high schools. And as a former high school principal, you can open access to AP. But if you're not prepared in 7th and 8th grade in middle school, even in 5th grade, there's no way that you're going to be there, because then what will happen is you're not prepared. The teachers will get frustrated. The kids will get frustrated and say, well, this doesn't work. No, it does work. And a good friend of mine, Terry Greer, always said, AP is not for the elite, it's for the prepared. So how do we prepare them, right? So it's opening access in our middle school. So we're using assessment data, because assessment data it's black and white. It doesn't have any biases, right? There's no teacher recommendation, because we know how that works. And I think teacher recommendations serve a good purpose, but it's not the all be all. There's got to be assessment data and GPA. It's a combination of requirements that we have. And I think the document has gone out, and that's one of the things that we're looking at, to make sure that we're using when we're scheduling children in our advanced courses.
And I would add to what Dr. Jara was just saying in regard to AP. This is one thing of looking specifically across the entire state, to the purview that we have, making sure that all of our students have access to highly effective educators in content and coursework. So knock on wood, hopefully we as a state will be receiving a grant that we applied for, about $2.5 million to expand just that. And especially given the COVID instance right now. But we've been doing, as a state, AP courses at a distance for almost 20 years, believe it or not. But we just need to make sure that every child has that opportunity, and that it's not just some.
Vershay Young, you typed a question in. She was one of our former BSU students and now is at Xavier University. Varshay?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi, Varshay.
Hi. So I posed a few questions about the plan under CCSD. So I was looking into the website, and I see the plan is to focus on student success, and it stated equity, accessibility, and so forth. And I was just looking into the steps and the procedures that you guys plan to get us there and that you want to use to get us there. And it was saying investing in the staff. And then I looked at the numbers because I remember it was at the last town meeting that was in person, actually, when we were defunding, getting rid of the deans and putting more money into the police. And I was just like, what are the police teaching us? I don't recall taking a class to learn from a police unless it's in self-defense. So I was like, why is so much money put into them? And you say you want to put it into the staff. So most of the money is into those police and they're just a staff that I don't feel like needs that much uplifting. Then another one was the pathway. So, and this is more for like the principals at the school. So you guys have these schools come out to talk to us. Most of them are like locally, which I understand because we're in the state of Nevada, but then some PWIs come out. How come no HBCUs come out to educate those Black students that are interested in stuff like that? Why don't we know about the UNCF, the United Negro College Funds? Why do we have to learn all this stuff by the top of like we have to go in to invest in ourselves to get this opportunity? That's what they're saying. Like us as Black students, we're not getting the equal opportunity. We're getting the PWI. Sometimes we're not going to make it to those PWIs, but these HBCUs are looking into us. They're there for us. They're here to provide us, but we're not getting the resources to them unless we provide them ourselves. So when I started the BSU, I was able to do that. I was able to get HBCUs to talk to us and get more students involved in that. And I had a high percentage of students that enrolled into these HBCUs, and I was very proud of myself, but I was looking for more of the school system to do that for us, so I didn't have to have like the total of the weight of a student put it on other students. As well as these, I feel like these town halls really do help because I tune in every time to speak for the community, for the youth. Because like they said, I'm only a second year student, and I'm doing more work for the community because I want to give back to them. Because there's a lot of students that look up to me and they ask me, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep going? Because I didn't have the opportunity. So I want to be able to give others opportunity and others the resource that they need to prepare them to go forward. Because it's more beyond just the PWIs. It's more beyond UNLV. It's more beyond the other schools that are coming. It's more out there for us. And I just feel like we're not getting the opportunity. We're not getting the access that you guys say we're supposed to be getting. You guys, somebody had mentioned, I'm not sure if it was Dr. Jar or the other lady that spoke, but it was emphasis on equity and accountability. So we're supposed to be holding you accountable for these procedures to help get us prepared. Supposed to be getting us prepared for aging out of college. Going on to college and not just focusing on in the classroom, but outside of the classroom and beyond the classroom. So I was just wondering, is this plan, and I see it's supposed to take spec this year and then finish in 2025. So I'm going to be monitoring that, and I'm going to continue to join in these calls. And my big question is the accountability going to be there? Are these actions going to be put into safe? Or they're actually going to be invested into the staff? They're going to do more pathways in career in college? Are they going to listen more to the community and the family? Is everything in this plan actually going to be presented out?
Sorry.
Thank you, Verche. We appreciate you and keep up the great work there in New Orleans at Xavier. We're so proud of you.
And when can I hire you? We need you back home here doing this work.
I'm also ready to vote for you whenever you're ready to run for something. I will hire you, vote for you, works for you, whatever you want.
She's already under contract with me.
Okay, it's arm wrestle. That being said, transparency is part of our work, and I have two actually my board members that are on this call today, and they will tell you that they push us extremely hard and challenge us in this work, and making sure that we are aligned in that all of those words that you mentioned, right? Repeating out what I said, it's not just words, but what are those actions? And again, I want to focus on, we've got to move from the autopsy to the preventive, right? All the work on the front end from birth. We are a K-12 system, but guess what? The K comes from your 4-year-olds, our 3-year-olds, our 2-year-olds, right? And back to the womb. So that whole system needs to be fleshed out, which is not currently here in Nevada. We do not fund pre-K. I spent time in New York, and all 3- and 4-year-olds funded for pre-K. Right now, we're only able to hit 11% of those most in need. So all versus 11%, and I know there's we could have a whole session on Senate Bill 543 and how we plan on and moving forward to address exactly that. The money flows for those students most in need. But I'll pause. I know we're late, and Chair Williams, I apologize. I do need to jump pretty quickly here. So I know you may continue the conversation. I really do thank you for letting me part of this as well.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Ebert. We appreciate you. And just on behalf of our Black Student Union network, I just want to let you know that they are looking forward to having that roundtable with you. So,
Yvette, one more question. This is coming from Alicia Romanoff at Gwendolyn Woolley Elementary School.
Okay.
Ms. Romanoff, are you on?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, ask your question about the implicit bias.
Well, they said that for the AP classes, that teacher recommendations is how they get into those courses. And we know that there's implicit bias with teachers. So what kind of training, besides the recorded videos that all teachers are required to click through, is being provided at a school level to deal with these implicit bias so that those students are getting in, because we know that's one of the barriers.
So I guess I could take that and if I may, and really I think, and let me go back, because the implicit bias training, that was one, that's the baseline, right? That's not even, and I know that that's just to get everybody on a common language and a common discussion. Now that's why we're bringing in the National Equity Project and looking at feeder patterns, right? By data set, you're looking at the needs of the schools, and then looking at a feeder pattern. So it's going to take us some time to get to all schools. So, and we have to speed that process up. And I hear you loud and clear. I'll tell you, and I always use my own personal story. I was not, I was not even anywhere near AP classrooms, never, right? For whatever reason. So we use the PSAT because PSAT has the AP potential. Do we need to do more training for counselors? I think what Bashia said is absolutely, we need to invest in our counselors, their professional development, because they need to really invest in the habits and minds of kids. You have our kids who have the grit at home, but academically they struggle. But then how do we then bring that grit from home and into the classroom, making it an academic grid? And how do we support our counselors to be able to analyze and you know who the kids are. They will do whatever you want them to do because they believe in you, right? So it's not just a teacher recommendation, that's a component, but the PSAT, looking at their GPA, there has to be training around that to be able to do that. And then obviously the training is how do you support them to stay, right? So I think it's a combination of training, not only looking at the PSAT, looking at the MAP, which is the one that we're using all the way to 10th grade, to looking at the data to see how kids are growing at each grade level to be able to do that. And if I can just echo what the state superintendent mentioned, she spent some time in New York. I mean, when she said that, my daughter, she's 19, a sophomore, and she went to pre-K for free in the state of Florida 19 years ago. And we only have for 11%. It's also in that report. It's on that report that we pulled out. There's so many of our kids that need early childhood that are not having access to it. It's just, we're getting there though. We'll get there because we got, an opportunity to be able to do this work together.
Thank you. I agree as well. And that was one of my issues, is that this needs to start before the kids even get to our schools. We can't wait till they're in high school and have the counselors working with them. We need to start in pre-K and kindergarten, because these children, our African-American students, are getting shut down and facing those implicit bias and systemic racism as soon as they enter school. So we're losing them by third grade. So it's important that, I think the training that the district came out with last year it's very good, but like basically we need more.
It's not even scratching the surface.
Yes, thank you very much.
And you know what, I just was reading, Dr. PA and I was talking last night, ran across an article, and what it said was we had to pause for a minute and get our composure. It said that the first experience of racism for children is at school.
Actually, Ms. Williams, there is research from Yale University that it starts as early as preschool. And what I'll do is put the link in the chat so everyone can see the video clip and the actual experiment that Yale did with certain elementary, preschool, and early childhood educators. So it speaks to Dr. Jara's point. And nice to see you, my wonderful former boss. So I'll put that in the link. But Ms. Williams, there's a statement that we have from an awesome principal. I don't know if Principal Jonathan is still on the call, but he did.
That's
Okay.
That's her alma mater. So yeah.
So Principal Jonathan, if you're still with us, we think your statement or your question is well noted.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in magnet schools for a decade now, and I agree with what you guys are saying, and we've tried a lot of different things. So I was just trying to reach out to the community and see what are some new strategies that have been proven to work. We've done sessions in schools, we've gone to elementary schools, we've gone to middle schools, of course, and I don't know if there's anything else out there, any innovative strategies.
You're referring to as far as for recruiting more African American students at over at Advanced Technologies?
Not just at ATEC. I know all my principals at all the magnet schools are always looking at our demographics, trying to match the district as a whole. And it just becomes an issue of transportation, issue of childcare. That kids want to stay with their friends. We don't have sports. You know, there's a lot of reasons. So I'm trying to find out what you think you'd recommend.
Well, transportation is a big issue because, for example, we have one of our board members taking her daughter from North Las Vegas all the way to Southwest Career Tech. She did it for a year, but couldn't do it the following year.
Yep.
And so transportation is a big issue. We're hoping to see more money put into transportation so that schools that are underrepresented, where we have underrepresentation of student groups, that the district would provide them with transportation so that they can, so that we can increase this number. I mean, we're going to have to start doing some really aggressive things in order to see this gap narrowed. And so. Yeah, so go ahead, Dr. Jar. Did you want to speak to that?
I just want to echo to what you're saying. I mean, you look at some of the best districts as a whole that have some of the top magnets. It's not because they have better kids. Absolutely not. They eliminate barriers and they invest in transportation to get kids there and back, right? I mean, and you look at where you have some of these, and the school system is bigger than ours. Miami-Dade, they provide busing for all kids. That's a priority of the community. And you got kids that get on buses at 5 a.m. And because the program, like you're talking about, Jonathan, and it's a matter of eliminating the barriers for children.
The other thing too, Jonathan, I don't know if you heard the presentation that I made earlier when I was talking about magnet. We actually have a robust number of Black applicants, but there's the selection of those applicants is underrepresented. The only racial group to be underrepresented in the selection process. So going to your point, we need to start drilling down and finding out why is it underrepresented? Is it the transportation? Is it, the work schedule? I mean, what exactly is making that gap exist for Black students because we have plenty of Black kids applying, they're just not being selected. So what is the reason? So are they getting selected, but then they're not? When we looked at the data, we saw that they were underrepresented in selection also. It wasn't just they were selected and then they opted out. Okay, we actually saw where we saw not as many selected. And so we're not sure why that is, maybe, but that's why we want to look at that lottery in particular. And that's why we're asking for the weighted lottery. I've been pushing Dr. Jar. All of you on the call should send an email to Dr. Jar saying he should do weighted lottery, and that would help us a lot.
Well, if I could speak to that real quick, one thing to look at though is that the lottery is completely computerized random. So I don't know what happened in that case. And then like we have no absolute control. No school has control over who they select. It's all done centrally. And I think the weighted, I hear what you're saying, but I think you just have to be careful because every school has their own issues. Like at ATEC, we have a gender imbalance. So then are we going to give weight to genders? Because we have about 70% male, and I think it's that's the only thing I would say as a principal is just to look at every single school and identify some areas of concern because everyone has their own things going on.
And
Hi, Poonam.
hey, kids, hi, this has been such a rich conversation. Thank you all for leading the way. And for getting blood pressure elevated on right topics, right? That's always that's the gift you always give me. I had the honor of serving on the Equity Commission that the superintendent has referenced. This is still the report. The link to it someone found and has put in the chat. I really would encourage you to look at it. I think one of the things that I've been the most proud of in terms of the work product created. It was a group of community folks. And here's what we did. We tried to, it is an ocean to boil, right? There is no shortage of stuff that needs to get better because when there is fundamental, decades old social inequity that is the only ubiquitous reality, it becomes even hard to know where to start, right? So one of the challenges that we had to sort of face was how do you pick a few things and really go after them with vigor? Do not get distracted. Just do a few things, and what are they? And one of these, we had a lot of conversation. We articulated 4 failure points. That's what we call them. And we've talked about some of them. The lack of access to kinder, massive issue, right? If I don't have a place at the starting gate, how am I going to stand a shot to win the race? Bottom line, right? And we can look where those seats are less available, and it's black kids getting denied, brown kids getting denied, poor kids getting denied. That was 1. 2, this gate thing, and I'm just going to give you the numbers because Dr. Tara, you did a really good job pulling out numbers that now are just about a year old pre-COVID. But here is what it looks like for students. In one school in Clark County a year ago, 1 in 4 students were enrolled in GATE. 1 in 4. So every morning, the message being delivered everywhere and constantly is, you're a genius, you're a genius, you're a genius, you can do anything. Oh, by the way, that particular school had 29% minority student enrollment. Same district, different school, 1 in every 190 students was enrolled in GATE. Let me say that again. School A, 1 in 4, school B, 1 in every 190 students. That means once in a rare while, there may be an observation of potential, right? That school, 89% minority. 89% minority. That's wrong, right? So you probe a little more deeply and said, what's going on? Well, it was policies that don't make sense. I'm allowed to take a private test to prove that my baby's a genius. Well, that's wonderful for suburban kids, for rich kids, for parents that can do that. Doesn't work for black and brown kids. So the district, this board made a decision to say, it's not going to cost that much that we can't afford it. Every child is going to have the access to be able to get enrolled in GATE, the eligibility for GATE. That's a big deal. Another failure.
Puna, 1 second. But hold on, before you move on, we got to stop there because Magnet and GATE was the 2 issues that 14 years ago, was yanking the school district about because our kids weren't being tested. And I had to fight to get mine tested, who happened to test in the top 10% in the nation. But anyway, they made changes then. So there was policy changes made, but apparently wasn't enforced.
Well, we're gonna. So this community.
Because you're saying they just adopted, and we were told that the policy had changed. They were going to start testing, and this was years ago. So sometimes change is a wildly frustrating thing because it doesn't happen until it happens. And I don't know when it's going to happen. All I know is we just got to keep moving, right? And eventually it doesn't happen until it happens. That's been the story of civil rights forever, right? We haven't. Yes, but I just wanted to understand the frustration. I wanted everybody to understand their frustration. Yeah.
And in this instance, the group did say to the district, we want you to report back because the 13 of us that worked on this really care about this and really believe in it, and we're going to advocate hard. and we're going to breathe down like that hot air you feel in the back of your neck. It's going to be us with our channeling our inner Yvette Williams is really what we're doing.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to just point out is one data point that was so powerful and compelling was access to advanced placement, or the tickets in middle school that give me broad access to opportunities for career tracks in high school. Because if I don't get them in middle school, I got no ticket to play. It's going to be harder for me, much harder, to get into a magnet, even if the lottery lets me in. If I don't have algebra, if I don't have honors geometry. And then what we discovered is algebra is offered in every middle school. Real disproportionality in how many black faces are taking that class. We got to fix that. Honors geometry, which is another golden ticket to play, is only offered in a third of our schools, a third of our middle schools. And guess what? If I geoplot where those middle schools are, they're in the suburban ring. So we said, well, that's got to get fixed like right away. Those are the kinds of things, the specificity of the recommendations, because we dug to say, what's the root cause? And we identified 4: access to pre-K, access to gates and magnets in elementary, access to the rigorous coursework in middle school, and then access and completion of the career and technical, because it takes 3 years to be able to get the stuff I need to be able to get a job. And so we say to kids, here, take a career track, but it takes 3 years for me to get a job out of that back end. And we've got the vast majority of kids don't get to 3 years. So we give them a promise, and then we don't put them on a track where they're going to achieve the 3rd year. And then they're another, like it didn't work, right? So those are the very specific kinds of things that you'll find in here. I just wanted to bring to light the reality: 1 in 4 get one elementary school and 1 in every 190 students in another. That's the facts, right? And when it starts early, the point's been made here, it goes to the birth. But, we've already sort of really dramatically chopped the legs out from under high expectations for kids by 3rd grade. So it isn't a surprise that they're not willing to do what it takes to get to ATAC or some of the world magnets we've got, because we've already said to them, you fat chance.
Shawina, thank you, Poonam, so much for that. We appreciate that, and we appreciate your work and always your advocacy that you do in the community. We appreciate that so much. Shawina, is there one? I think we could take Dr. Jar. Can we do one more question? I know Joan's already left us.
Yeah.
Okay. Shawina, is there one more? I see a lot coming from Jeff Long, Spring Valley. I see a few
Miss Williams
from Carmen Miller. Well, yes, Greta.
Sharina had to leave because she wants to follow CCSD protocol.
Okay.
Her time, approved time.
Don't
I just want the superintendent to know she's following protocol. So if she exits off, it's because her leave time. But we do have a lot from Mr. Long, and also we have a lot from it's really Mr. Long. So we have to give him an opportunity because he's really chatting and asking some very relevant things. Don't you think, Miss Tim? Before your time is up, because we want you to exit off when your time is up.
Well, I wanted to let Dr. Jara know, yes, I am.
Okay.
My bosses know that it's time for me to get back to my classes.
Right. So if we have time for Mr. Long.
Excuse note if you want.
You give her a note. Write her a note.
Report with you.
So Ms. Williams, if we have time for Mr. Long, and then it's now 12:32. If we have time for Mr. Long, that would be great. If that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shawina, do you want to lead us? Where do you want to go? Okay, so let's go to Mr. Long then.
All right, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Are you must be on the phone?
Oh no, I'm on my laptop.
Okay, there.
All right. So yeah, as you can tell, I've been very vocal about this. I'm kind of fed up because we've had numerous conversations about this, and I'm still not seeing any action. And it's not a diss to any of y'all. I know y'all have your own responsibilities, your own work, your own commitments. I get it. However, as somebody who grew up in CCSD, From K through 12, I've gone through 12 different schools. Okay. And all of those schools, I've experienced the same thing. All right. And now as a teacher, the students that I'm working with, whether it be BSU or in the special education program, whatever it is, those same students are now coming up to me and telling me things that I would have went home and told my mom that was happening to me at school. You understand? And so now, now I'm frustrated because now I'm the adult and I can protect these kids. Yet when I do my part to teach these kids how to stick up for themselves, they're being like pretty much swept under a rug. And I'm not just talking about my school. All right. I talked to a bunch of educators. I'm just talking about the collective senses that I've been getting from everybody. All right. And I have no problem speaking on it because I'm not afraid of the consequences when it comes to protecting my people. Okay. So with that being said, I'm saying all of that to say this: CCSD, Nevada, USA, whoever is listening, if you are not going to do your part, your job in protecting all students, like you say, and especially my people, the people who look like me, who I represent, then I don't want your school. I don't want your laws. I don't want your handouts. I don't care about any of that. Leave me and my people alone so we can build our own and watch us excel and pass your standards. And then you can come ask us for help, because I'm done pleading for my freedom. I'm done pleading for my life. I'm done pleading for the safety of all the students who continuously wake up, have to pass by drug-infested neighborhoods, come to school, deal with a teacher who doesn't even understand that kid couldn't eat breakfast because they had to go get their mama from someplace. Like, y'all don't understand. These kids are being hated on daily because they live in the best life they possibly can. And then you want to throw standardized tests at them and tell them that they're not adequate enough because they don't understand the terminology, when really y'all should be changing those standardized tests to their language and watch them excel. I don't get it. Y'all doing all this effort to make us work for y'all when y'all need to be working for us. We put y'all in these positions and y'all are still hating on my people. I'm sick of it. I will not put up with it anymore. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's fine. And Mr. Long, I think what you just touched on takes us right back to that root cause where we started our conversation around literacy and being able to read and comprehend.
Right.
Because if we didn't have that struggle, they'd be able to do those standardized tests. But going to the point of Betty, who, in the English Mastery Council and the importance of that work, this is exactly why. I mean, it's taken a long time to really peel back this stinky little onion.
Right. And then with
the fact is that we've got to, it all goes back to literacy.
Right. And even if you give them the literacy part, they still have to worry about living in the neighborhood that they're living in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they go to school and they're being judged on the way they talk or the way they dress, when really that's their culture. That's that's what they've been, and I just feel like we're not doing our part to represent them in the classroom.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I'm talking to my own community and we're in our own little room or on our phone call, I speak completely different than how I speak when I'm in public or making a presentation or something, And so, yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I'm not giving up my culture for anyone. I love my culture. So I think, again, you're going to the importance of respecting each other's cultures, and which is another topic that we didn't quite get to, but maybe we'll be able to do a town hall again at another time. But we didn't get to multicultural education and where we are, because I really was hoping that Brandon Moeller or Dr. Jarrett could give us an update on where we are with our multicultural academic standards in our curriculum here in CCSD. And I don't know if Brandon's still on the call or not, but Brandon, if you're on the call, Brandon, shout out so that we know you're here still. And maybe you can give us an update on kind of where we are as it relates to, Brandon's still on here. I see you, Brandon. You can't hide. Your name.
Can I?
So maybe Brandon or Dr. Jar, if you want to take the lead on that, it's up to you.
I'll let Brandon jump in, but I really want to thank Mr. Long for his comments. And I know you and I have had in our other meetings with Yvette, up and the Black Student Union, because I think they're important and we need to address. I can speak for the last 2.5 years. I can't speak for the past. But the training started right around addressing exactly your issue, and I'll tie into what the study that Dr. PA sent out. When you start digging into our data, why do we have pre-K kids being suspended from school? And we know the race and the color. And kindergartners, what could a 6-year-old, what could a kindergarten do? So the reason I say that to you is because that data is being looked at in my office, and I'm reviewing and asking the questions that need to be asked at the school level and the principal supervisors to say, why are we suspending kids? And the partnership that we have with the harbor, right? Why are we not sending them to the harbor to keep them out of prison, keep them out of jail, and keep them in school, provide the support, the families, the support that they need to be able to help them, right? And we need more harbors. So the partnership that we have there, because why are we suspending kids, right? I mean, granted, we should send them to the harbor, but for marijuana and all these things, because then you have some kids that can have access to a good attorney. I mean, let's call it and be real, right? And this is where we really look at what we need to do. Then why are we as a system not help? I mean, I get a call from the district attorney's office asking me, why are we still holding restitution for 7 years for a kid that broke a window and is coming? And we know who that child is and what that child looks like. So it's not fast enough for what you're facing. And I want to make sure that it's not just CCSD, it's an urban education. It's an urban schools. It's not just Clark County. I want to make sure that it's not an attack on Clark County. It's an urban schools, because it happened where I came from and we tried to address it. And we did. So I've seen success. I've seen kids that look like you, look like me when they're placed in AP classes, right? I mean, in one generation, I was not allowed even near an AP class, but my son graduated with 12. How does that happen? Right? So when I say to you, don't lose hope and stay connected, and I know that we've committed to really, because your passion is what we need to push the system from the inside, to make sure that we address everything that you're talking about. Because when I say grit, our kids have street grit. Our kids have street grit, right? They going in the neighborhood that they live, they're surviving. So how do we turn that into, to Yvette's point, when they struggle reading, how do we have them transfer that grit in the street to academic grit? So I just wanted to make sure that don't lose hope. I know that it's been some long years for you, right? But we all have to stay, and I need you to keep that voice and keep on sharing and be that same passion, because the kids need you in your classroom and in your school.
And for those that don't know Mr. Long, he actually worked at Sierra Vista High School. He was our BSU advisor. That's when I met him. And he was actually support staff. He went back and finished his education and got his teaching credentials and went back to the exact same school, Sierra Vista High School. And there's John, because of his passion for the kids at that school. So here's somebody from our community that, we're always talking about, building our pipeline and, getting folks from our own community. Here's somebody that is passionate about our kids, our education system, and went back and invested his time and money so that he could be part of the solution. So round of applause to you, Jeff, for that. I see John's name came up. John, if you want to say something, that's fine. But I do want Brandon to address the multicultural before we end our call. And then also Mr. Long, and for those who don't know what the harbor is, if you look in the chat, we've had several people post a link to the harbor so you can know what that is.
Hey, Yvette, this is John. Good afternoon. And first of all, thank you for putting this together. And Dr. Jara, thank you for responding to Jeff's comments. I want to just kind of piggyback on Jeff. Jeff, I know he has a lot of passion, and Jeff has done an amazing job also being solution driven. Over the summer, after the George Floyd killing, Jeff reached out to me almost immediately, and we had a great conversation. And we helped put together a town hall that had several law enforcement officers, some elected officials, and you were wonderful, Yvette, as well. And I thought that was a great start to the conversation. I think it would have been more fruitful had we been able to come back to school in person and be together physically. But then Jeff reached out again and felt that, we were just not attacking the problem of racism at our school, in our district, and our community head on. And Jeff really helped me open my eyes. And we have now created a diversity panel at our school. And Jeff, that was some of Jeff's work and push to do that. And I'll tell you, those are very difficult conversations to have, especially at Sierra Vista being a suburban school. But people forget, and I bet you know this, and Dr. Jara knows, our school is one of the most diverse schools in the city, and many people don't know that because of where it's located. So I just wanted to jump on quickly. I've been listening all morning, being quiet, but I wanted to support Jeff and let everybody know that he may sound passionate, but he's also brilliant. And I'm thrilled to have Jeff back at Vista. I wasn't going to let him get away for too long. He strayed the nest, but we scooped him back up. And his beautiful wife and his young daughter are part of our family as well. So, Jeff, great job. We're going to continue the work, brother, at Sierra Vista and beyond.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Brandon, are you there? Can you give us an update on our multicultural education?
Yes, Ms. Williams, thank you. And Superintendent Hara, thank you for the overview and everything that you provided. Thus far with multicultural education, we've been working quite a lot with the Nevada Department of Ed, and Superintendent Ebert has also been supporting that, and which is great. And we have a task force that was developed by the Nevada Department of Ed to focus on multicultural education, called the Nevada Department of Multicultural Advisory Task Force. And they put this together. They're bringing in community members, also people from CCSD and other people throughout the whole state to really work on multicultural resources and education documents and information we can give everyone so we can start working on that. I know the law was passed a while ago. We have state standards, but now we want to put the curriculum and the resources and the support for the teachers so they can apply it. And that's what this task force is going to be working on. It's going to be starting in October. It's going to be ongoing, but that's where we're at with that right now.
Okay, great. Thank you for that update. We appreciate it. And I don't think I saw Janie's name pop up. Maloney from NDE. They have also have put together. I think they just now are sending out the announcements, but they have put together a task force as well for to deal with multicultural education, because we have not implemented it in the state, and it should have been implemented this past school year. That's the number one. If you ask our students, especially our Black students, what is the number one issue for school? They want multicultural education. It comes up every single time. Yeah. So, and I know, Dr. Jar, you've heard that over and over and over again. Every time you're with them, that's what they ask you about, right? So we've got to give them, we always talk about what do students want. We need to make schools exciting for them so that they want to come. We say that, and here we have an opportunity to do that, and it doesn't seem like it's getting the priority. So thank you, Brandon, for that update. I appreciate that and the work you all do.
One extra thing I wanted to add there too is that part of the relicensure was part of that law also. That is coming due. So for new teachers that have to get relicensure, they have to take 45 credit hours in multicultural education, aka cultural competency, implicit bias. We worked and collaborated with CSN. That's rolling out this fall for new teachers. And so they're going to be doing that to get through their relicensure. And it's, again, 45 credit hours on implicit bias, cultural competency, culturally inclusive teaching practices, and multicultural education standards. So that's rolling out too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap it up because we are already an hour beyond our time. So I appreciate all of you and my our CC Black Caucus members for staying on and hanging in there with us and making this. I know how busy you all are because the beautiful thing about our caucus, we're all volunteers. We're 100% volunteer. No one underwrites us. We're not. We're just community people. So we're all doing our thing, have other, our personal life and a business life and a working life. And so the time that you see them give, it's all volunteer. So I just want to be respectful of that. And I also wanted to note that Senator Woodhouse, she could not be on the video. She couldn't get in. So she's been listening to us via the phone. And so I just wanted to thank her for joining us as well. I always have appreciated her support and help over the years. We're certainly going to miss you up there at the state legislature now that she's termed out. So with that said, Dr. Jar, do you have any quick closing remarks you might want to make that we didn't touch on?
No, I just want to thank you really, Yvette, for putting this together. The conversation continues. We need to tap into Jeff's passion and get it across the community for more of that. I think, no, that's it. Our kids, our kids are counting on the adults to make sure we get it right for them. They can't do school twice.
Great. Thank you. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. I want to thank, I know I saw Tim. I know Greta called him out, his wife, Carrie, over at Clark High School. I want to give a shout out to them because Carrie, they're going to start, Dr. Jar, a Black Student Union. I don't know that it's going to start this year because with the distance learning, but if not this year, then certainly next year. And Carrie, I'm going to hold you to that. So knocking on your door. So, so thank you all again. And thank you, Dr. PA, for opening us up and everyone on the program again. And again, we will have I will put the presentation on our website. Again, that's ccblackcaucus.com. I won't get it up until tomorrow because I have another meeting after this at 3. And then this evening I'll do that along with the graphs as well. So you'll have access to that data. And then I will figure out how to download this recording onto our website. If I can't do that, then I'll try to figure out how to email it. So I might have to go into WebEx and get a tutoring lesson on how to forward a recorded meeting to everybody. But if you registered, you're down as a participant email, then you will receive it. If you didn't, go to our website. I'm going to try to see how I can get it on our website as well so that you can view it later or can share it with other people. Thank you again. Have a good day. Stay healthy, stay safe.